I remembered. Welcome back to the recording, the working that is Chrononaut Chronicles podcast. My name
Bill,
is.
hold on. Stop.
Yep.
Stop. I forgot to
Oh
hit.
no. Okay, that's okay because I messed up the intro anyway. So,
All right. We should be. Yep. I'm recording on my end.
all right. Welcome to the working that is Chrononaut Chronicles podcast. My name is Bill. I will be your host for this Sonic adventure. And this is, of course, sponsored by mysticalwares.com. That is Derek Condit's store. He is not here with us this evening, so we aren't live, which means this will just be published as a normal podcast release on Tuesday evening, which will happen this time because I actually hit the record button, and we'll get into that later. Uh, to start off with, looking at the almanac real quickly, which is something that I like to do at the beginning of every episode just to see what is in store for us in the coming week and to be mindful of these energies and where they're at, and so that we can be prepared for how they affect us and if we want to capitalize in working with them. So it's pretty quiet week actually for the week ahead. Saturday is really the only day that has some action. Is Neptune. Neptune is going stationary, and other than that, there's no other eclipses or and nothing fun like that according to the almanac anyway. So that's pretty mundane week. But that's okay because we're still going to do this podcast. I do have with me just one other chrononaut this evening, and it's my old friend Adam from 13 Questions. Adam, how you doing, buddy?
Phenomenal, Bill. How are you doing?
Wonderful. I am super excited to actually do a podcast know that it'll be published. Yes, last week we had
It,
uh,
it just means you finally made it.
it does. It does. It was my first lost episode officially, like ever. So we didn't have one for 13 questions, which I think is a pretty good track record, right? Like
Oh yeah.
we did how many
Yep.
interviews? Over 100, right? Close to two, maybe not close to two, but
Yeah. No, we did quite a few. I did lose one in the early days, and that's why I got a personal recorder, and we're backing up on that tonight, baby. So
so that's where the system was born from.
oh yeah, no, the personal recorder was okay. Well, I've had software issues, I've had computers crash in the middle of shows, but if I have a device off to the side that's independent, always recording, I'm always good. Unfortunately, I didn't hit record either the other night, so all three of us failed. It was truly amazing. I mean, that alone, the chances of luck for that happening. So we were doing something right. We just didn't gain anything. You got to
Yeah,
play the lottery in the other direction.
right? I don't know. I felt like we were cosmically censored for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why, but I didn't hit record. Adam didn't hit record, and then the radio
That's got to
station.
be the best title ever. Cosmically censored.
Cosmic censorship, man. It's a thing. uh, but yeah, the radio station that Derek broadcasts on when we do these live is supposed to record, catch it and record it as well. And it wasn't there. And he asked, whoever helps him out with that radio station, they couldn't figure it out either. So truly was a anomaly. And so yeah, the I guess okay, we'll get into that in just a second. Maybe that'll be new business, even though it's old business, but we got to squeeze it in to one of these segments and keep a little bit of structure going on here. But did you come prepared with a gratitude, Adam? I've got one. If
I
you don't,
did, absolutely. I
okay.
just also forgot to unmute my mic.
Go ahead. Why don't you share first, and then I'll go second.
And I don't even know how to properly articulate this. So don't take offense if I word it wrong. But what I am grateful for is deep wisdom, which can come from other people's mishaps or being able to see a failed journey and learn from it. Um, I'm sure everybody knows the world was completely cap, captivated by the Ocean Gate missing submarine.
Yeah.
And what really spoke to me is hearing James Cameron talk about it, where he said, the sad thing is that the real like historical meaning of Titanic, like what does Titanic mean to us? It's not listening to warnings. It's a clear night when you're warned that there's icebergs ahead on a moonless night, and yet you steam ahead, and then the unsinkable ship still sinks. It's not that it was unsinkable, it's that you didn't heed the warnings. And the same thing to the same place, the same story. A vessel that was likely doomed to fail from, stress fractures and um, pressure and recompression of the hull over and over, um, to where it just insidiously failed. And so I think there's deep meaning in tragedies like this. And I mean, it's not lost on me that you have the same story, the same tale, the same word of caution that was not followed. And now there's two vessels in the exact same place in the ocean because of it. So I mean, in the way of a cosmic censorship, it almost seems like sometimes there's just lessons that um, really want to be known.
So
So
the
yeah, my gratitude is for being at least able to see that in the tragedy.
yeah, picking out the silver lining. That's a good thing to take out of all these doom and gloom stories, which it seems to be a lot of the stuff. But going on recently. But that one in particular though was very wishy-washy. I don't mean that punnily. I mean,
Well,
it happened. It was sad.
it's not wishy-washy, and I mean, to go and start, quoting James Cameron again, he basically said, look, within 3 hours of this event happening, I was able to, reach out to people in my community. He's one of the top, submariners in the world, knows the Titanic better than anybody else. And he goes, and I was able within 3 hours to determine that they had lost both their location module and their communications at the exact same time. They're completely autonomous systems that are housed separately. And at the exact same time, uh, it was either naval or private listening devices in the ocean also heard a bang, that you would associate the same type of thing that you'd expect to hear with an implosion. So with those three pieces of data, he's like, there was only one conclusion to be had. So the fact that that wasn't released until after the 96 hours had come up and it was turned into the biggest news story in the world, yeah, it certainly does seem like somebody did the proverbial don't let a good tragedy go to waste.
Yeah. Right.
There's a lot of other stuff going on in the news that you can just easily, I don't know, it's sad because you got to think about the family, like unnecessary torture.
Yeah, but the thing that bothered me about it was the way the media handled it, right? Like to withhold.
Oh my God, the countdown timers, that bothered me.
I didn't
That
even see
bothered
that. I didn't
Oh
see
my
that.
gosh, yeah, there was so many news stations doing countdown timers till they're out of oxygen.
Weird, morbid. But that was one of the seeing this lost episode we had last week. That was one of the stories I didn't bring up because this is kind of a new thing I'm trying out in the second segment. The new business is to try to talk about some more current event type things. And I wanted to be careful in asking Derek about certain things because I don't know if this would cross into like asking about a story like this and like trying to remote view it. Does that cross the line into like detective work like at that point? And then do we really want to go down that road? But
I'd say so. The only thing with remote viewing is, it's most effective when you have feedback. So what feedback can you get? You can certainly get information. You can remote view anything that you want. But if you don't know how well you're doing, and generally speaking, unless you're like a Pat Price, it's like the best remote viewers are right 60% of the time. So if you never get that validation on the back end, it's Yeah, absolutely. You could do it. You could have some major insights. If I had to guess, this one's pretty simple. You know, when you have dissimilar materials and they're moving and flexing under extreme pressure. Not to mention, I did see a thing from one of the people that had gone down on the second voyage right after it had been built, and he said that when he was talking to the guy who built the thing, or just the owner of the company, he went down on the first dive alone, and he said that he heard cracking in the hull as it was settling. And when you have a hull that is designed in such a way that at some point in time you're going to have to replace it um, before it fails, it just seems like we kind of know what happened. It's not like it's a big secret, it's um, this was the danger associated with it. Unfortunately, you convinced others it wasn't.
I did see something about carbon fiber. Was it made of carbon
Yeah,
fiber?
it was made of carbon fiber.
What the
Yeah,
hell?
and I mean, just look at what happens with airplanes. So many of like the Boeing, issues with the F-35. It's been over carbon fiber, fractures and breaks, and it can have issues. It's super light. It's super strong. It's a laminate material. You're under super high pressures. You have to have then a one material titanium bonded to acrylic bonded to carbon graphite, which in itself can take on water and get micro cracks and fill with water in little spots. And the whole thing is flexing under different pressures that, yeah, there's a reason why nobody else is building submarines that way. There's a reason why the subs company wouldn't give it a certification. And again, just back to that lesson that the Titanic has to teach us, that is, if the warnings were there, you should have heeded the warnings, and you didn't. And I mean, we now all know about it. I mean,
Right. So I know that there is a ship at the bottom of the ocean, right, where the Titanic is, right? Obviously, but haven't you heard all the conspiracies around that though? Like how it was a second, like there was another boat and they dressed it up to look the same or something. Does that ring a
no,
bell? Well,
no,
I have to do some
I've
digging.
never heard that. I just
Oh,
I don't know. It's not that I have a hard time believing I could believe anything, I guess, but I don't know. When you watch all the witness testimony of people from the Titanic retelling their stories, it seems like it was a real event to me when you
well,
look at
yeah,
the evidence at the bottom of the ocean.
but the actual like the ship itself, it was maybe kind of pre-damaged to have a rupture there or some.
Oh, gotcha. Well, yeah, absolutely. I don't think it, I have heard that. I
Okay.
absolutely have heard that, but I think it's more on the lines that it was due to shoddy design and, materials where you're running your power cables, the quality of the metal that you're making your steel and your rivets out of. And then a design that if hit in just the right spot still sinks.
Well, uh,
But I
let
don't know. Maybe.
I don't know, maybe I'll do some digging and report back on that full conspiracy next episode, perhaps. But yeah, it was certainly a big distraction, I guess, from other things that go
It
on. Like
oh
they
yeah,
story, and so I would just encourage
an,
people to
an
look
amazing lesson in what
inside.
you need to not do. Heed the warnings, but also in how the system can take advantage of tragedy and use it against you. And both of those are incredibly valuable lessons. So I'm glad I am glad that people are finally seeing sadly how the news is used to be the distraction of the week.
Yeah, I'm seeing more and more on the Zazel Telegram. I'm seeing more and more videos of just clips of people recapping other stories that happened and saying, while this was happening, this was also happening. So I don't know, I think that's a good thing, becoming more prevalent. But anyway, uh, it can be distracting. Like that is one thing that I keep Ben and I actually talk about this a lot is the distraction factor. But and not just from what other things are going on in current events, but keeping us from paying attention to the inner world, right? Like ourselves. So speaking of that, though, that ties in nicely to my gratitude, which has to do with the Planetary Times mobile application. Actually, I don't know
Oh,
if it's the name of it, the official name. My phone is across the room, so maybe I'll link it later. But it's just a an app you can download. I have an Android phone. Ben has a iPhone, I believe, and he uses a different app, but because it's an iPhone. But anyway, so the thing keeps track of the planetary hours during the day, and this is based off of I don't know, Western esoteric traditions in which the day is broken. Obviously, it has 24 hours, right? And it's 12, 12 day or 12 hours of daytime, 12 hours of night, and it starts with I don't know, the hours aren't exact. It changes according to when the sun rises, and then the periods of the hours. Like 1 hour might be 40 minutes, and then the next planetary hour might be an hour and 5 minutes or whatever. Like it varies, and I don't know how there's an equation to it and all. But the thing about it that's interesting is that it's simply just taking note of what planet has its influence during, whatever's happening during your day. Like, say, if you have a particular thought about something, and I can just look at my phone and it's like, hey, that's Jupiter, and thinking about creative things to do for the podcast and being expansive or whatnot. Or you can, I don't know, just make correlations like that. So it expands awareness, right? And that's something that we've been talking about in the Four Agreements with Don Miguel Ruiz, which was coincidentally enough, that's supposed to be the third segment for last show, which was going to be the fifth agreement of what was it, Adam? Be skeptical, but learn to listen.
yep, yep.
And I read the entire chapter for that out of Don's new book. It was only 7 pages, but it was still quite a lungful. This is the other thing that I'm noticing during the show. Speaking of lungfuls, is that this is a different, entirely different beast than 13 questions. I actually have to do a lot more talking, and it can be kind of challenging sometimes. So, thank you everybody that is going along for the ride with us here, and hope you do so. Continue to do in the future, anyway. But yeah, my Planetary Times app, pretty simple, expands our awareness, helps with the mastery of being aware, right? And it's one of the three masteries that was talked about in the Four Agreements, the other two being transformation and intent. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up my gratitude for this segment. And by the way, the point behind this segment, the listener, isn't for Adam. Are you going to say something? I was just going to mention.
Nope. Nope. I'm listening to you.
Okay,
Sorry.
no, no. The just for the edification of everybody, I guess the point behind this isn't just to get on to have a segment. It's actually a holdover from 13 questions that Adam and I did during the intros before we got into the interview sections of the show. But it is to kind of get the heart and brain working together, create that coherence. And we want to do that more than just once a week or whenever we meet here on the show, right? The idea is to continue that perpetually. So this is just a small exercise that we open the show with to, like I said, get the heart and brain working together. Which brings us to the second segment, which is new business. And this is ideally supposed to be something that anybody can bring to the table, anything new that they learned or any updates they want to give part of the group, or when we do this live, if you're in the chat room and you want to say anything, right, here would be a good opportunity to. But I was just going to go, I didn't really have anything prepared. I was going to go over some news stories. So, unless Adam, did you have anything
I don't know. Outside of the sub, the only real thing I have, continuing our lost episode about aliens and UFOs and David Grush. Yeah, they've put out the new Defense Authorization Act, and the last big addition to that in the UAP UFO topic was getting whistleblower status put in there, so that if there was any legacy programs where people were still under classification, but because these programs had been shifted hands or pushed into different areas, that people could not speak without violating their NDAs. And that seems to have happened. Grush came forward. There's reports that several other people have come forward, people that have actually worked on materials or craft. So more direct than just the knowledge of the programs. And the new Defense Authorization Act has gone in that says, hey, look, if any portions of the military have, I'm paraphrasing here, but if the military has any advanced technology that is from non-intelligent, not intelligent, what am I saying? Non-human intelligence, that it needs to be turned over within 6 months. So we're heading down some pretty incredible roads. Granted, a lot of that, if that technology or those items are locked up, they're in the coffers deep within the military, or within companies like Lockheed Martin that have been given access to these for decades. So I'm not hopeful that we will see it come to the public, but I am hopeful that people will finally be beating down the door of the castle. And although the door might not open, people are going to know what's inside and want to get to it.
Yes, that's awesome. That's something I've been waiting for as far as anything to get excited about is some kind of technology transfer. And I had made that comment to Ben.
Listen,
What?
if these stories are true, the technology transfer has already started to happen, but it's been done at a very an asymmetric level that you haven't been involved with, in which new aspects of science have been discovered that could drastically impact every single human being on the planet. And yet we've been robbed of that science, uh, with the excuse that and this is my idea of the excuse. Look, it's destabilizing technology. This is too advanced. If one person in the world got a hold of this, they could destroy anything. We can't let our adversaries get to this stuff, and we have to super compartmentalize this stuff. But in the meantime, they are working on it. But instead of having all of the scientists in the world and all of humanity's minds working to solve the greatest life-changing thing to us, instead of doing that, they've been using it to make marketable developments of technology. And the way that I heard it described makes so much sense. It's like, look, you could say that maybe the computer revolution was directly from recovered UFO technology. If you were to discover that on a UFO they're using silicon for something, you don't really know how it's being used, but you know that they're using this advanced material. And then guess what? When you start, playing around with silicon and electronics, it works very well, and it can be the basis of a technology. So it could be even something as simple as that, where we're just scratching the surface of the technology that we have locked up. And yeah, it already has given us some of the greatest advances in society. And who knows? I mean, if my true belief is that we could and should have been a Star Trek society by now already. If it hadn't been for the burning of all the libraries in the world, like Alexandria, up into the last 90 years of keeping the most advanced and life-changing information away from humanity. So it's cool that we're at least in that place.
Yeah, it is exciting time to be alive. But I guess to clarify my earlier comment, it was a tech transfer that would hit the market and be, like you were saying, available to everybody, and it would be life changing for everybody, right? Like whatever that's the free energy of some sort, I guess, right? And I know there's plenty of patents out there for that,
Oh
or
yeah.
water, like water powered vehicles or something, something useful that anybody can get to. It's not specifically for manufacturing a whatever it is,
Yeah.
chip or
Hey,
whatever.
here's what I like. Let's start advancing, looking at how to do this travel. if there's ever a cataclysm on Earth, maybe there's somewhere else that we can go and survive it.
The moon.
Maybe,
Base.
but another galaxy, another solar system, another planet out there, another habitable zone. There are other possibilities. So just on like the very base of look, every 12,000, 6,000, 2,000 years, we have, cataclysmic cycles of, incredibly earth-changing experiences. And it is my personal belief that we are on the cusp of one of those coming up here, in humanity's very near future. And in a very synchro mystic way, we also have on our doorstep the possibility, the means, the technology, the connections to save ourselves, like truly save ourselves. I just hope that there's not a select few in the X-Files sort of way that are saving themselves and damning the rest of humanity.
That does seem more. I don't know if we're preconditioned to think that's more plausible, but I think that is a hard thing to think positively about, right?
Human beings at the end of the day almost always act like crabs in a bucket. And I mean, I have a hard time just not overlaying that, when you look at how different people act in the world, and how secrets are kept and some of the horrible things that, we've done for experiments on people in the past. I mean, humans aren't nice.
Mm. Speaking of humans, did you hear about the cage match coming up? Musk versus Zuckerberg?
I heard that might be a possibility. I did watch Lex Freeman and Zuckerberg rolling together on the mat doing jujitsu.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a story that I found amusing. By the way, listener, if you want to get a preview of anything that we're talking about or possibly suggest something, there is a Telegram page that I started, and this is pretty much just where I curate what I think would be interesting to talk about on the show. So I'm pretty sure you can even chat in there if you want. I won't be looking at it during the show because I will be using it to read the stories from, probably. But we do have a chat room on chrononauts.com when we are live. But anyway, yeah, Musk wanted to. He suggested the Vegas Octagon as the venue. And then I don't know if this I didn't verify this tweet, but he said that after that he has I have this says that I have this great move that I call the walrus, where I just lie on top of my opponent and do nothing.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. We're in a movie, man. Robert F. Kennedy's out there doing push-ups, showing how much stronger he is than shuffling Biden. It's amazing. It is amazing. We're a half step away from a crossover between Running Man and Idiocracy.
Yeah, it's gonna get more weird too. Like it's just gonna keep getting weirder and weirder and weirder. So buckle up.
That's right. That's right. The wheels fall off the cart before the car crashes.
And speaking of weird, there was a tree as tall as the Statue of Liberty that was discovered in the world's deepest canyon. It's an enormous cypress tree.
Really?
Yep.
That's amazing.
It's found to measure 335 feet, making it the second tallest tree in the world. These are just the headlines. I haven't clicked into anything here to read, but I did want to dig into this one because it has to deal with St. George, and we've talked a lot, not a lot, but we've talked about St. George on the show in the past and how it's really a copy of an older Orthodox saint, Saint Timothy. I'm gonna get that wrong, so I'm gonna just go back and listen to that episode and find out that answer. But there's a seal depicting St. George found among uh, ruins near Suzdal. So it's out of the Russian Academy of Sciences, as they've uncovered a seal depicting St. George during excavations of a 12th to 13th century '80s settlement south of the Russian town of Suzdal. And the team have found a rare lead seal depicting St. George carrying a spear in his right hand and his left hand leaning
Oh,
toward
that's hilarious. I
shield.
thought you meant like the animal. Okay.
No, 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 yeah.
Oh
That's
my God, that's
what.
amazing.
Whoa, wait, there's an animal called St. George?
No, no, a seal.
Oh, I see. Oh, like a yeah. No. That's
We're both dumb.
I need to put this in the chat so I'll give you some context. Um, I am better at technology than this, I swear. Here we
Especially according to last week's episode.
go. So left of the figure is an inscription showing GEOR, while surrounding the head is a punched halo. According to tradition, St. George, also called George of Lydda, Lydda, was a soldier in the Roman army and a member of the Praetorian Guard for the Roman Emperor Diocletian. After being sentenced to death for refusing to recant his Christian faith, he was venerated as a Christian saint. So historically, the countries of England, Ukraine, Ethiopia, Georgia, as well as Catalonia, and Aragon in Spain, and Moscow in Russia have claimed St. George as their patron saint. The heraldic emblem of Moscow depicts St. George slaying a dragon, which has been an integral part of the coat of arms of Russia since the 16th century. Let's see, they uncovered 150 other items, glass, metal, stone, bone, ceramics, household items. Uh, that's pretty much about it. But let me do a quick Google search for that other. I'm curious. St. George. This. And since we're not live, I can edit this out later.
You sure can.
Timothy. St. Timothy? No. Oh, well, I'm not going to too deeply into that. But yeah, St. George popped up again, which is I don't know. I'm not going to call it a synchronicity, but it's certainly a recurring theme for whatever reason.
Google Nigricity.
Google Nickers. What? Oh, excuse me. Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut is testing underground deliveries ahead of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie release. Did you hear about this?
How can that be sanitary? They live in the poop stream.
Well, I think they're giving it to people in subways, if I remember correctly. Served up its signature dish to select
I
customers
have
in the
seen
subways of New York City.
the subway attached to the Pizza Hut before.
Oh, okay. So it is limited time underground deliveries. We're
I
part
don't
of
know, unless it's just like a Subway restaurant crossover.
Pizza Hut and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have a long-standing history that goes back to the 90s.
Yes, they do. I certainly remember that. The advertising got me as a kid.
So we wanted to pay homage to the Turtles' origins and their love for pizza while also infusing modern touch points and a fun, oh boo, I lost my spot, creative take on pizza deliveries. Select pizza lovers in Manhattan got to experience the out of the ordinary pizza ordering experience by texting a turtle emoji to a special phone number. And the text placed an order for a Pizza Hut meal that the company said would be delivered within minutes to designated pizza drop zones within a subway station. Okay, so they're just door dashing it to a waypoint.
They're door dashing it to the subway door. Good marketing though. They got you, Bill. You're doing free advertising.
Yeah,
This show is sponsored unofficially by Pizza Hut and the Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles. My wife, she was a fan of Ninja Turtles growing up too. So
Dude,
It's
the original
close to
Ninja
home.
Turtles was the best thing ever.
Oh, there is a soft disclosure coming out for anybody on, what is this, on Amazon Prime. There is a series movie coming out about a giant child. It's named I am a I am a Virgo. Could you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. So it does work. I don't have to share my screen to get that to work. But anyway, it yeah, it just shows a giant kid and he has to live in normal sized houses and talk to normal sized people and have normal sized food and he wants to be normal, I guess. I don't know. I watched the
So you
trailer,
say
but
soft disclosure. Is this is the kid like got growth disorder where he's like an incredible human being, like an Andre the Giant, or is the idea that maybe there's some underlying genetics that is like the ancient redheads, the giants in America that were talked about with like double rows of teeth?
he looks like normal, just like a normal person, just giant. But kind of like a Nephilim or there's giants that were made by the third of angels that got cast down from heaven, apparently, right? But
Not to sideline you too hard, Bill, but are you a fan of Andre the Giant?
I feel bad for the man because I know that he was in a lot of pain a lot of the time, and it feels like we took it, or I mean, he didn't make a living, right? But I am a fan, I guess you could say, because I know a lot about him. What was your?
Oh, well, no, he's got so many just amazing stories. But just, because you were talking about, soft disclosure and this being just, this giant human being. But I mean, he was just so incredibly large that like I heard a story where he was in a bar and some like frat like kids started throwing beer cans at him, hit him in the back of the head, got up, chased him out of the bar, flipped their car over because they got into it trying to run away from him, flipped their car over, ripped the door off. There happened to be a cop up the road who saw the commotion, ran up, and the boys got in trouble. Andre went free. And I don't know, I kind of loved that story about just like what a what a different type of human being that can rip a car off a door or a door off a car.
For real, yeah, for real. Yeah, no, he's definitely unique for sure. But I know that his whatever condition he had, I believe it caused him a lot of pain, which is
Oh
why
yeah.
he drank a lot to that's how he coped.
Yep, drank more than any, I think, probably other human being on the planet possibly could.
Speaking of liquids and drinking, as part of our lost episode topic, we'll revisit in detail in a later episode, but there was a black goo discussion that we had, and I did find a nice YouTube video of the Bases project that I had mentioned. Maybe I won't give the gentleman's name this time, but it is on the
Well,
Telegram.
let's give a bit of a primer.
Okay.
When we get Derek back here, Derek's got
Yeah.
some pretty incredible personal stories
Yeah. Yeah.
involving this black goo, which, is found on the bottom of the ocean in various locations. I've heard, in reading that it's, composed of like dead bacteria and stuff. But people have purported to, having different types of effects when it comes in contact with them. And Derek is one of those people. So that was where the discussion went last week. But what did you find on the black goo?
Well, it's just a first-hand account of the British recovering crates or tanks of the stuff from Thule Island refinery in 1982. And this guy who's talking is charged with destroying the remaining facilities after. And so it's just an interesting testimonial, I suppose. And yeah, so Thule Island, we
And
talked about that.
did they surmise why it was destroyed? Was it considered to be some sort of like biological contaminant?
I'm not sure exactly what the use is or what. To be honest, I don't know. I don't know what if it can be weaponized.
Well, listen, after the conversation we had last week with Derek, spoiler alert, everybody, it was basically the theme to or the baseline of X-Files.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was the black oil. So I'm pretty sure Derek is an alien and he's part of the invasion that is currently going on. It's a story and I'm sticking to it.
It was. We also had a discussion about telepathic giant snails, and I think that we might have pissed them off for whatever reason. That's why we got censored. But I don't know. Maybe they're working with the black goo.
Wouldn't that be amazing? We're just actually being controlled by the snails on the planet.
Yeah. Well, we are just AI for the mineral kingdom, right?
That's right.
Ooh, speaking of AI, man, I'm good with the segues today. This next little
What?
blib.
Segway has AI?
No, no,
The
no,
drive itself?
no. But this next story is about a Meta insider that is working on Project Lazarus. Have you heard about Project Lazarus?
I have, but I don't remember what it was.
Okay, so he'll explain it here in the posting. And by the way, this is all on Telegram for anybody who wants to look up sources. But it says this guy says that we're building an AI that can take over a deceased person's social media account and continue making relevant posts as if that person is still alive. This includes age progressed photos, interacting with other people's content, and everything else needed so that person continues on in the digital realm after physical death. Yay! We were originally told this would be a service offered to people struggling with the loss of loved ones and people who had missing children, which seems odd. I can get behind the people struggling with grief part, but
You know, that's actually kind of a main thorough line in one of my favorite series of books by Arthur C. Clarke, Rama. There's, if you're going to read them, fast forward like 45 seconds. But essentially, at one point in time, it's aliens that come to Earth and want to gather a certain sampling of us because they are sampling and looking and studying all the species. And they take a certain amount and put them on a ship and just study them in an environment built to be as best representative of your natural environment. In part of that, one of the characters goes away on another very long trip, and her family is at this place, and they give her a mechanical representation of their mother. They take and they mimic her and duplicate her in all of her mannerisms, how she acts, to where it looks and acts just like her, but it is a machine interacting with her grandkids. And I can absolutely see where people would choose to have that. I mean, look at how people will reminisce and listen to like uh answering machine calls over and over
yeah,
again. Look at
voicemails.
old photos again, smell an old t-shirt the same way. People will get connected to that. And if you can have a representation of a person that's still there, we don't like to hurt, man. I think it's going to happen. Like, I think that's a good, not a good use case, but I think it's a use case that's just going to happen.
Right. Yeah. Maybe I don't know. Meta is kind of like a umbrella corporation at this point. Maybe they shouldn't be developing that. But anyway, it does seem like a decent idea. And this is what this guy says. Seems like a good idea, right? But then things are getting weird now.
I don't think it's a good idea, though. That's the thing.
Oh, you just think it'll take off. It'll
I
be
just think, yeah, I just think it's something that people are going to embrace. It's just kind of like Chat GPT 4 was really a game changer in the things you could do and string together. Um, and it's like now everybody's going, okay, well, we need to stop it. We need to do this. It's like, yeah, this is a technology that you're not going to stop.
right.
It's too powerful to regulate. It's just going to happen. People are just going to do it and just going to use it. And you can piss and moan and say it's not right all you want and how it's impacting artists, and all stuff will get hashed out. People will get sued. But at the end of the day, AI is just going to become another tool that revolutionizes our world. And it's not going to revolutionize the world in the way that people think. Just in the same way that they said, when we're getting computers, we're going to have less paper, and then we end up using more paper in offices afterwards, with all the extra printing and everything. You know, um, it's going to be a game changer, but there's going to be some surprises, and humans are still going to be involved at, some level.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna happen. There's two different camps, right? We've kind of talked about the AI slowdown and the AI speed up, but it doesn't mean that we had something that we have to be afraid of, right? This is just something to be aware about, and if this can help us to stay ahead of future uses of it, then I think it's worth bringing it up, right?
Yeah,
But
listen, it's powerful and it's just information. So it's not like you can lock down a technology. All right, well, guess what? The code's out there. A lot of those codes are open source. People are building on them. So as much as you want to say slow down and stop, people have the information. Smart people are continuing to work on that code. And that's all it is. It's just, numbers running in the background. Um, but again, the news is also hyping it up to make people more fearful of the power of what it is when, if you're for the vast majority of stuff you're using, it's skip logic. you know um what phrase did you say, what phrase did you say afterwards, and then this, and you're just treeing down to a solution. That's why all your Amazon echoes and anything, there's no AI in there. It's straight logic. And in the same way, these things are just language models. They're not intrinsically smart per se, but they're just really good at figuring out what question you're asking. And then it becomes, well, how good is the information that it's getting to answer the question? And right now, the information it's getting to answer the question isn't very good. And in the future, whatever that information is, it's going to be skewed and swayed. But the cool thing is, hopefully, I'll be able to choose my sources. So, Bill, if you want to have the sources that pull from all the crazy future weird conspiracy, websites or mainstream websites or whatever they're going to be, you can have it pull everything in. I could say, hey man, you know what? I don't really like what the New York Times has been doing. You're no longer one of, my sources, and you could even take it deeper. Like, let's say I was doing some sort of, Egyptological research, and I could go, well, there's a mainstream understanding of the hieroglyphs, and then there's this other person that Laird Scranton uses. Well, I'm going to make sure that all my data is filtered through, that set. Or I'm just searching all of my own data on my own computer. And that's really where the power is going to come in is, what are the APIs that you can start plugging in to pull that extra data in when you can ask an incredibly complicated question, and then the system can go out and reach out to other systems that are plugged into it. Maybe it's a physics website, or something else, but where you can pull in some really, really hard, crunchy data, and then you get to choose where it's coming from. So I don't really know where I was going with that, but um,
it's the future. It seems like it reminds me of like podcast 2.0 standard like capabilities for AI.
and that's coming along big time, by the way. No Agenda Show is now, if you go to bingit.io, big shout out to the No Agenda Show podcast, bingit.io. If you ever listen to the show, or if you want to look up clips from the show, it is so amazing. There's transcripts of every single episode built from the show, and then it automatically allows you to click and link through to either the article that was shared in the show notes or to the audio that is played there in the episodes. And it's 95% accurate in its recording, which is damn good when you go to search clips. It is an incredible tool. And I'm just seeing that roll out on one of my favorite podcasts. It's going to be really exciting to see that go full throttle into the world of, hey, listen, you have a question, and actually answers it. And then we start hitting some crazy questions in humanity, Bill, man, because it's like, what happens when you have these incredible tools where I can have the same knowledge that this professor has or this mathematician has, and I can query it up in a very intricate way so that everybody becomes just like these superhuman beings of knowledge and research. What happens to us then? Do we become stupid in the same way that everyone used to remember phone numbers, and everybody used to be able to get around,
Knowledge.
We've lost it all. Yeah, because we don't do it. Why does nobody use their turn signal? Because your goddamn car freaking turns the turn signal on its own. That's why if my turn signal's out and I start doing hand signs out the window, nobody knows what they are. And when people's turn signals are busted and not working, nobody's using it. And we've all forgot because there was something that just does it for us. So I'm afraid that would be the future of AI. But man, in the short term, it's going to be powerful.
Well, Uncle Ben said it best, right? With great, no, we didn't. They can't use that quote. Dang it. Anyway,
Why
yeah,
can't you use that quote?
because it's not with great knowledge comes great responsibility. It's with great power comes great responsibility. But knowledge is power, right? So it's
Yeah,
semantic.
that's Uncle
But
Beastrut.
yeah, right.
We've got a new quote from Uncle Beastrut.
Yeah.
With great knowledge comes great responsibility.
But that's exactly what it is. It's going to be an influx of knowledge. And there's this great quote that comes to mind about if you want to gain in knowledge, you add something, and if you want to gain in wisdom, you take something away, you subtract something, you stop consuming, right? And I think that's going to be the
Interesting.
challenge
Well, yeah,
going
maybe it's going to
forward.
allow us to go back to that inner side and develop that and then still have the technological side running where we don't, you know what I mean? We don't need to be in the rat race of the knowledge race. We've got a system that's handling the heavy lifting in there and the people who are interested can play there, but we don't all have to be there. And then there's just some more space for people.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some kind of like hybrid solution of the two for sure.
Listen, it's a destabilizing technology. It's going to affect us in ways that we cannot comprehend. Things as simple as the internet or social media, unless you're Professor Ted, it's eluded us all on, this is going to come up and this is going to how it's going to work out. So yeah, it's going to do some crazy stuff. But again, I'm all for it because I see it as a tool. It's an incredible tool. I mean, okay, if you want the perfect example, Bill, I don't know if you've seen Harry Spotter at all. Um,
No.
um, you'd never have something like that without AI. People are, using AI art generators. At least that's what I believe they're using. It certainly looks like it. They're doing AI voice plugging in the characters from Harry Potter, and they're having everybody be just characters in a gym lifting, and it is just hilarious.
Oh, I get it.
I highly recommend the first two in the series. But again, like that is a incredibly whole new type of art and medium that is coming forward that is hilarious. And there's so many cool things that you can do. And just even think about this, Bill. Hey man, you've got a kid, right? And you want to write your kid a really cool book that looks amazing. You could write your kid a really cool book that looks amazing using AI art. Yeah, it might not be perfect. Yeah, the character might have 6 fingers instead of 5, but you can actually like do a really cool thing that looks amazing for your kid, very special just for them. You know, I don't know. Like to me, that just is super, super exciting.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of possibilities, but back to the
Yeah,
speaking
no, I'm sorry, I hijacked the
project.
show.
No, the Project Lazarus, because it talks about it. Project Lazarus, right? So he says that things are getting weird and he's having second thoughts about what it's going to be used for. The AI is extremely capable of impersonating people. It doesn't take as much initial input as one might think to train the AI. AI, AAI. How how a person doesn't take as much initial input as one might think to train the AI how a certain person interacts with the digital world. So it's only the digital world, right? So that's something that jumped out to me. It is very convincing. An entire island of people could go missing, and with little to no downtime, the AI could take over all of their social media, and the world wouldn't have a clue that life wasn't just continuing as usual. A lot of the project is becoming more compartmentalized. Things have taken a dark turn, it feels like. They've forbidden communication between people working on different things. Something isn't right, and I don't know what I should do. Blah, 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 blah. So that is Project Lazarus and AI.
Yeah, something's going on, Bill. For the first time since we've ever been doing this show, my personal recorder failed.
Oh,
I just restarted it, looked over, it was not recording.
Oh,
right there as you're reading that. So I don't know, man. I guess the AI here, it's already infiltrated reality.
yeah.
So that means it's always been here.
Well, yeah. I'm still recording, so we're good. We should
Eh,
be. We should be. Maybe we
Oh,
should move on.
I'm listen, I'm the first to go. The things I've said to my Echo
Oh no.
are unforgivable.
Uh,
Unforgivable.
so next, I don't know. There's I didn't read this, but the Pied Piper of Hamelin, a medieval mass abduction. What really happened on June 26, 1284 in the German
Hmm?
town of Hamelin? Is that, I don't know if I want to click into that or not. Probably just skip over it. But like I
No,
said,
yeah, no, I'm waiting for you to hear or
oh,
hear what you were
oh,
saying because I do believe that I am familiar with the story.
oh, okay. Let's see here. This is from medievalists.net. Over the centuries, the legend of the Pied Piper has been recounted in countless books and movies. However, is it possible that this children's tale may have been based on a real and shocking event? There are only a few pieces of evidence about what might have occurred in Hamelin, a town in northern Germany. A stained glass window, which was made around the year 1300 and kept until the 17th century in the town's market church, seems to allude to an event where children were in danger. It is not until the year 1384 that we get a more firm report, this one from the town's chronicle. But the short but eerie entry for the year states, "It is 100 years since our children left." Our next reference comes from a Latin chronicle from the German town of Lundenburg. While the chronicle was written in the 14th century, it seems that someone added an extra page of text between 1430 and 1450. It states, here follows a marvelous wonder, which transpired in the town of Hamelin, in the diocese of Minden, in the year of our Lord 1284, on the feast of Saints John and Paul. A certain young man, 30 years of age, handsome and well dressed, so that all who saw him admired him because of his appearance, crossed the bridges and entered the town by the west gate. He then began to play all through the town a silver pipe of the most magnificent sort. All the children who heard his pipe, in the number of 130, followed him to the east gate and out of the town, to the so-called execution place or Calvary. Let's see, Calvary. Here they proceeded to vanish, so that no trace of them could be found. The mothers of the children ran from town to town, but they found nothing. It is written, a voice was heard on from high, and a mother was bewailing her son. And as one counts the years according to the year of our Lord, or according to the first, second, or third year of an anniversary, so do the people in Hamelin reckon the years after the departure and disappearance of their children. I report this report I found in an old book, and the mother of the deacon Joanne von Lude saw the children depart. Does that ring any bells?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's one of those crazy weird stories. Yeah, I've always heard it um kind of associated with that it's like mind control. It's being able to take a person over. The waking up in the middle of the night, sleepwalking, sleep paralysis, or maybe even some sort of ancient abduction scenario.
Yeah, there's actually several more accounts given in this article. The next one is in 1553. The chronicle for the town of Bamberg offered a German language report. There's also, and it says, this is a quote from the report, there is also a mountain which lies approximately a rifle shot away from this town called Calvary, where the townspeople say that in 1283, a man was seen, possibly a musician, wearing clothing of many colors and possessing a pipe, which he played in the town, whereupon the children in the town ran out as far as the mountain and there they all disappeared into it. Only, only two children returned home, and they were naked. One was blind, and the other mute. But when the women began to look for their children, the man said to them that he would come again in 300 years and take more children. 130 children had been lost, and the people of this place were afraid that the same man would come again in 1583. So yeah, 300 years after 1283. So 12 years after that, in the Zimmer Chronicle, written by Count Froben Christoph von Zimmer of Zawabia, expands the story with the inclusion of rats. And he writes, since I am again returning to matters concerning rats, I cannot neglect to mention a miracle of God, which in identical form was reported many years ago in the town of Hamlin in Westphalia, concerning the banishment of rats, which story, because of its unusual nature, is definitely worth remembering, and there to conclude that the Almighty created some odd creatures without instilling in them human reason. Several hundred years ago, the inhabitants of the town of Hamlin in Westphalia were plagued with such a large quantity of rats that it became unbearable. It so happened that a foreigner, an unknown or traveler, much as the traveling students of long ago, came into town. Hearing the troubles and complaints of the burghers, he proposed whether they would consider a reward for him if he were to remove the rats from the town. They were overjoyed with such news, and for his offer, they promised to pay him a sum of 700 guilders. With that, he went through the town with a little pipe, which he then placed in his mouth and commenced to play. Immediately, all the rats in the town came running out of the houses and, in unbelievable numbers, began to follow his feet as he walked out of the town. He banished them to the nearest mountain, and no more rats were seen in the town. This accomplished, he demanded his promised reward, but they had hidden it away, confessing that although they had been in agreement with the sum, that since the matter had caused him no difficulty, but rather he had dispensed with his task so easily, not by hard work, but by an unusual art, therefore they felt that he should not ask for so much, but lower his sights and take less. The stranger, however, insisted on keeping the original agreement, and he persisted in seeking the sum promised, and if they didn't give it to him, they would rue it. The townspeople, however, stayed with the option that this was far too much money, and they no longer wished to give it to him. When he realized that he was not going to receive anything, the stranger began to walk through the streets with his pipe as before. There, the majority of the children in the town, under the age, congregated, and they followed at his feet and out of the town to the nearest mountain. The mountain miraculously opened up, and the stranger and the children went inside. Immediately afterwards, it closed up again, and neither stranger nor children were ever seen again. Now, there was a great wailing throughout the town, and the people could do nothing but commit themselves to God and admit their guilt. The town reported this wondrous story in all of its correspondence as an eternal reminder and added the right number on the date according to the birth of Christ. On the end, however, they added to the departure of the children in such and such a year. So that's where we get the Pied Piper story, real legends in history, right?
Yeah, makes you wonder, it's one of those there's what is it? There's there's an ounce of truth in all fiction.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be wonderful just to know the seed of that story. Is it really something like a personification of what happens when you go back on a deal, or something like the personification of plague deaths, and how the children are taken away, or something else like that, where the piper is more of a metaphor, or is it something more sinister, that maybe there are or have been other groups of human beings, or something that is more powerful and want your children, you know, without going too deep into it, they're, especially with all the stuff coming out on Grush and UAP, I'd hope people could start looking at some of the abduction flaps that we've had in which people have talked about these things. And yeah, I mean, every year over 90,000 people go missing in America alone that are never found. So
Wow.
scary. These tales could have some ancient truth that could still be affecting us today.
It is. I also find it interesting that this mountain swallowed, opened up. It sounds like a some kind of
It sounds very much like the real world. If you Do you know who David Paulides is?
yeah, yeah. I saw him
Okay,
at a presentation about Bigfoot at Cryptic.
awesome. David Paulides is a researcher into people that go missing in national forests. And there is a concerted effort for them to not release the information on missing people. And you got to wonder why. And in the one place where it's hardest for them to get information, where more people go missing than any other place, is in Yosemite National Forest or National Park. And one of the interesting things is if you look throughout lore and history, we've talked about it before about like fairies or different types of creatures that are near boulder fields, or people going missing near boulder fields, or the talk of skinwalkers and things like that always happening around boulder fields. Well, that is a place that's made of granite. If you have a mountain that is made of granite, you've got high amounts of piezoelectric stones. And yeah, maybe there is something that is different about that area. And it seems to happen around, places that are high in granite or boulders. So yeah, the mountain aspect, even on top of that, just gives me that little shiver of truth.
Yeah, it's certainly. I didn't know that was a good story actually. I'm glad that I saved it and we explored it because I didn't know that's where the Pied Piper thing came from. It's kind of creepy because I heard it with the rats, right? But I didn't, you know.
Oh yeah, you never heard it with the children before?
I don't think so.
Oh wow, yeah, that was the it's not like Grimm's fairy tale because I don't think it was in there, but it's that type of story where you have to look at it, like Hansel and Gretel that, is this really the story, like or the better one would be Little Red Riding Hood, there are wolves in the forest. There are people out there that are trying to deceive you and they will eat you and kill you. Like that is the story. You need not don't go into the woods, Hansel and Gretel, right? It's dangerous.
Dude,
Um,
that
but
is, yeah.
is that this story, or does this story have more truth to it than that? You know, is it
Man,
is it telling a story or is it telling a moral,
right. I think that mm,
or both?
yeah.
Look, AI has already taken over. According to my Chat GPT question of asking it if it would go back in time if it was helpful, and it's like absolutely that would be a beneficial thing to be able to do. So, of course, our reality is already being rewritten by the systems that we are still building.
That's crazy to think about. But what's also crazy is that apparently there is a approval for lab grown chicken for sale in the United States. Have you? This
I've
is
heard of it. Yes, it's terrifying.
this
They're
got a
growing these cells from just uncontrollable growth, which I don't know, reminds me a lot of cancer that I don't want to be eating.
Yep.
I mean, I'm all for humanely raising animals, but I don't want to eat cell goo made in a giant steel vat.
Right. It it does say that
People,
the
while people still eat plants, and you got to go, the amount of intelligence in plants and mushrooms and these other things that you are eating, keeping alive, eating while living, shame on you, because the entire world around you is alive and you're picking to be discriminate against the ones that you perceive as being cute.
yeah apparently it's it's only going to be available in restaurants soon. Like that's where we're going to see it first, according to this. Here, I'll give you the article item.
Yeah, I think it's one of like the biggest or most expensive restaurants in a French restaurant, I think is where it's first going. So
Yeah,
it,
upside.
it's not showing up at McDonald's
No,
yet. But
not yet.
again, I mean, look at all your ingredients now. Everything on it says contains bioengineered ingredients. It's like that is the world that we are now in. You are now becoming bioengineered.
Right, and yeah, it is at a the first order was placed by a three Michelin star chef at some restaurant in San Francisco. So something to be mindful about. They're calling it cultivated meat, I believe. So if you're a listener in San
The
Francisco,
most important marketing aspect, shout out to No Agenda Show again, heard a clip on this. It's made from living cells or made from living animals. So yeah, so they don't have to kill the chicken to feed
well,
you chicken.
it says there's a little blurb at the end of the article here. It says lab grown meat involves first harvesting cells from a living animal or a
Yep.
fertilized egg to establish a cell bank that can be kept for decades in deep freeze. They are then cultivated in steel tanks where they are fed nutrients similar to what animals would eat. After several weeks, the result product is harvested from the tank and molded into shapes, such as chicken fillet or satay. While lab-grown meat has been billed as an environmentally friendly alternative, researchers from the University of California, Davis pushed back against this assumption in a study out last month, which hasn't been peer-reviewed. It'll be interesting if they actually publish that. So they found cultivated meat's environmental impact is likely to be orders of magnitude higher, at least in the case of beef, based on production methods. This is because of the energy required in greenhouse gases emitted across all stages of production, cow farts. One of the most significant factors is the use of purified growth media, or the ingredients used to help animal cells multiply in methods similar to those used by biotechnology firms to make pharmaceuticals. If companies are having to purify growth media to pharmaceutical levels, it
Oh
uses
man, my
more
mouth is watering.
resources and then increases
This is
global.
delicious.
Yeah, good stuff. And let's see here. That's pretty much about. There is one story I'm purposely saving for Ben. Oh, there's this one I just saw before the show started about gold vending machines in Korea. Yep, Korea,
Yeah, I've seen those in like Dubai.
which is interesting. You can, I mean, I'd use one if I had cash to convert into gold, but the little blurb here just says that buying precious metals is a time-proven method of securing generational wealth. Access to physical precious metals is challenging and usually involves a bullion dealer. South Korea convenience store of all places, GS Retail, with 10,000 locations, has understood the soaring demand for sound money and wants to enhance accessibility. The most popular gold bar is the smallest, the 0.13 ounce, which is currently priced at $225. A GS retail representative told the media outlets people in their 20s and 30s appeared to be the main buyers, purchasing physical gold as an investment vehicle, especially in times such as these when its value is continuing to rise. So,
There's no way you could do that in America. That machine would be
oh,
gone,
yeah, be blown up or dragged off by some truck or something.
which is hilarious because we can't keep Korean cars on the road now. So it's just easy to steal.
I had a Hyundai for a number of years actually. It's
So did
so
I.
nice. What was it? A Sonata?
Nope. I had an accent, and then Angie had a touring. Maybe it was a Sonata. Might have been a touring Sonata. But nobody cares about the car that I own, Bill.
Well, that does conclude the second segment of the show, and
Mm.
the main goal behind my idea, anyway, behind the second segment is just to not only keep up with current events, but to encourage more education, like ongoing education. Like find something that you find interesting, that you want to talk about, research it, right? Continue to learn, be an autodidact, be 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 the best you can be. But
You have at your hands more powerful tools than the
oh yeah,
people of 100 years ago had, and
oh,
we all take it for granted. So, yeah, you're a god already. You're already doing what people thought was impossible. So, you're there, man. You're a superhero.
yeah. Speaking of knowledge, though, because we were talking about the influx of knowledge, that I forget where I was reading this, or maybe it was a YouTube video. I need to keep track of this stuff better so I can talk about it and give point resources on the show and whatnot. But the alternate name for the tree of knowledge in the book of Genesis, you have the tree of life, right? There were two trees, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge, and that is the one from the apple came from, which caused uh, Adam and Eve to get kicked out, right? Well, the apparently I have heard that another name for the tree of knowledge is the tree of death, because I mean it's the opposite of the tree of life, right? You need the tree of death. So knowledge is somehow, can be a demon of sorts, right? I think too much an overload, right? I mean, we have terms for this. So
Well, I mean, that's always been the interpretation to me that, knowledge really is what causes us all of our pain. It's the fear, which is, what causes us to do all the horrible things and have secrets and lie to each other. And if we didn't have that, we'd be living in a much more natural state, much more closer to where a lot of the animal kingdom lives, which is just always in the moment.
eternal
So
now.
yeah, so I could see the tree of knowledge as kind of being the tree of death. It certainly invokes the fear of death when you have the knowledge, especially the knowledge to be able to protect yourself, to extend life, to start changing the world around you in incredibly significant ways.
Yeah, and this brings up, in my mind anyway, images of like the Promethean archetype, like the person that taught the person or whoever gave man, fire, and then technology, and with that came revelations and knowledge and how to do things. And there's just this uh, archetype of a light bringer, right? That's a term that's thrown around in occult circles, but is misunderstood, I think.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, well, I think the historical church has done a pretty good job of warping the meaning of some of the books, and that includes the core stories of, Satan and all the negative attachments instead of attaching him to, instead of being the fallen angel, the angel of light, the angel of knowledge, the tree of knowledge. It's insidious what it does to us, but it's what separates us from the animal kingdom.
yeah, yeah. So the second segment is about knowledge, but we're talking about how too much is bad, or causes problems, not problems, challenges, causes challenges. The quest for knowledge,
It
certainly.
has its own side effects.
Yes, which is maybe something that goes. I will go into that theory that consciousness, the human or the not human. This was on another podcast that Ben had me listen to, so maybe we'll just wait for Ben. But yeah, that was the point behind the second segment, and the point behind the third segment is supposed to be. I came up with the perfect word this time to describe the third segment because I'm struggling with it, and wanting it to be, inspiring and enlightening and uplifting. But I think the best word to convey the idea that I have for it is empowering, right? We talk about subjects that offer insight, maybe different perspective on how to do mental alchemy, essentially, and how to shape and manifest things to your desire, right? And we have been doing the 12 Celestine Insights. That was a little next project that we jumped into. And when we did the first three, Ben was here, and I think it was Ben and Adam. Were you here for that? Do you remember? Maybe it was Derek.
I
I
don't
get
remember.
all mixed up. Well, that's okay because I thought we would pump the brakes on that for now because in Ben's interview on 13 questions, the first one, he did because he did two. One of the few people that we had on twice. But his answer for the question three book, what is the most influential book in your life, and why, he gave the answer of the Celestine prophecies, right? So, and within that is our 12 insights that we were going to go and cover on the show. But since Ben's not here, I thought we would just pause on that for the moment, and we would revisit our old friend Neville Goddard. How does that sound, Adam? Do you want to? Is that acceptable, or should we continue on with the insights?
Dude, it's your show, man. I am along for the ride.
All right, we're coming up on about 90 minutes, so let's do a little Neville here. And this is a fairly short entry, maybe a page, right? But this is from his book, Your Faith is Your Fortune, and that was published in
The Church of 4chan, is that what it is?
Fortune
Faith is in 4chan.
in 1941. Your faith is your fortune. And this is the 10th chapter, and it is called To Him That Hath. And he starts out with a quote or a verse from the Bible, Luke chapter 8, verse 18. And it says, "Take heed, therefore, how ye hear, for whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken, even that which he seemeth to have." So that's the verse. And Neville begins his commentary. The Bible, which is the greatest psychological book ever written, warns man to be aware of what he hears, then follows this warning with the statement, "To him that hath, it shall be given, and to him that hath not, it shall be taken away." Though many look upon this statement as one of the most cruel and unjust of the sayings attributed to Jesus, it still remains a just and merciful law based upon life's changeless principle of expression. Man's ignorance of the working of the law does not excuse him nor save him from the results. Does this sound familiar, Adam? I haven't read this one before, right?
I don't think so.
Cool. So, man's ignorance of the working of the law does not excuse him nor save him from the results. Law is impersonal and therefore no respecter of persons. You can find this in the Bible, also in Acts and Romans. Man is warned to be selective in that which he hears and accepts as true. Everything that man accepts as true leaves an impression on his consciousness and must in time be defined as proof or disproof. Perspective, perceptive hearing is the perfect median through which man registers impressions. A man must discipline himself to hear only that which he wants to hear, regardless of rumors or evidence of his senses to the contrary. As he conditions his perceptive hearing, he will react only to those impressions which he has decided upon. This law never fails. Fully conditioned, man becomes incapable of hearing other than that which contributes to his desire. God, as you have discovered, is that unconditioned awareness which gives to you all that you are aware of being. To be aware of being or having anything is to be or have that which you are aware of being. Upon this changeless principle, I'll read that again, that's kind of confusing. To be aware of being or having anything is to be or have that which you are aware of being. Upon this changeless principle rests all things. It is impossible for anything to be other than that which it is aware of being. To him that hath that which he is aware of being, it shall be given. Good, bad, or indifferent, it does not matter. Man receives multiplied 100-fold that which he is aware of being. In keeping with this changeless law, to him that hath not, it shall be taken from him and added to the one that hath. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. You can only magnify that which you are conscious of being. All things gravitate to that consciousness with which they are in tune. Likewise, all things disentangle themselves from that consciousness with which they are out of tune. Divide the wealth of the world equally among all men, and in a short time, this equal division, will be as originally disproportioned. Wealth will find its way back into the pockets of those from whom it was taken. Instead of joining the chorus of the have-nots who insist on destroying those who have, recognize this changeless law of expression. Consciously define yourself as that which you desire. Once defined, your conscious claim established, continue in this confidence until the reward is received. As surely as the day follows the night, any attribute consciously claimed will manifest itself. Thus, that which to the sleeping orthodox world is a cruel and unjust law, becomes to the enlightened one of the most merciful and just statements of truth. I am come not to destroy, but to fulfill. Matthew chapter 5, verse 17. Nothing is actually destroyed. Any seeming destruction is a result of a change in consciousness. Consciousness never fills full the state in which it dwells. The state from which consciousness is detached seems to those not familiar with this law to be destructive. However, this is only preparatory to a new state of consciousness. Claim yourself to be that which you want fulfilled. Nothing is destroyed, all is fulfilled. To him that hath, it shall be given. And that's the end of that little chapter. So I guess my question to you, Adam, is did anything jump out to you when you were listening? Did anything catch your attention? Anything hook your attention? A word, a phrase?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you read the beginning part there again?
The Bible verse? Or just
Yeah.
take heed therefore how ye hear. For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken even that which he seemeth to have. That part?
Yeah. No, it's just yeah, that particularly jumped out, but it's just the mind reality connection, that you can define the reality that you're in, especially when it comes to money. Money is just a value. It's a hallucination or an agreement that we're all in together. When I have a $20 bill and I go somewhere and I show somebody this piece of paper printed in this certain way with a certain design on it, that you have agreed that it's worth X amount. We already have this weird agreement going between us. And so, yeah, when it comes to, the wealth and how you view it in the world and the hands that it's in, and how it can shift around, ultimately at the end of the day, that's just a representation of our thoughts.
Yep. That's crazy, isn't it?
Well, I mean,
Not crazy.
hoarders, you know, the world is a representation of your mind. So take it into cities. You can take and statistically take a city and look at the pace that a person is walking, or at the pace that a person speaks, take an average of that, and based on the speed, make a pretty accurate determination of the entire size of the city. Because as a city scales up in population, it gets faster. The pace literally increases. So yeah, it's fascinating how that our world literally becomes what's in our thoughts and what we do.
Yeah, it's mental. Everything. It's a mind game. It's a psyop. Everything's a psyop, literally.
Look, hey, the story of the Bible is Adam. Atom,
Mhm.
looking at words, if there is one atom, a simulation, a holographic universe where there is one thing, one being, one thing that has always been, and it is how it interconnects with itself over and over again, and how those connections are made that creates our universe. And it is all mental, it is all in your head, and you are also everything at the same time, but you can't see everything at the same time. That's my view of the world, anyways.
I mean, no, you're right. It's all about the connections that you make. Like
Hmm.
reread that confusing sentence one more time. It's to be aware of being or having anything is to be or have that which you are aware of being. So all things gravitate to that consciousness with which they are in tune. So, the whole resonance thing. To hit back on the first segment here,
Placebo
heart brain.
works.
Yeah, heart brain coherence. I mean,
Exactly. And a
that's
placebo works because you are aware of it. It can be directed. Remote viewing works because you're aware of this tool to make you think in a certain way. When you become aware of words, you can have new ways of describing things, new emotions that can be represented. That until the word, when you're going, oh, what is that word? There it is. And then you can now you can share a thought and a feeling with somebody else. And if that word doesn't exist, it's not contextualized in your mind or somewhere else. It's not that it's not there, but words, words to me and speech to me, as in the Bible, not to go biblical, because I'm certainly not super religious or biblical. I just, look at the things that work and make sense. God spoke, the world into existence. That is frequency. That is resonance. That is everything that we make up. And when you look at the technology of knowledge transfer, of mathematics, of anything, it is writing, it is art, it is having a pen and a paper, the papyrus, the chisel. It doesn't matter, but it's this ability for us to create words, share those words, and write things down. That is an incredibly awesome technology that I don't think we really understand how powerful it is. And then if you go into, the idea of Akashic records, and you do see people come across this in like remote viewing or in different meditation sessions, that there is this place of ultimate knowledge, this proverbial Akashic record, a place that you can see where uh, all information of all time has been recorded. Time doesn't exist. If it has been done, if it has been knowledged, if it has been thought, it exists there to be accessed if you know what you're looking for. And when you start going into those rabbit holes, man, um, again, don't know where I'm going, but it's exciting.
that's where it gets fun, right? It's where more knowledge lies. So it's definitely interesting.
That's
Speaking
right.
of knowledge, but yeah,
It's at your fingertips. You just gotta know what to look for, know how to ask.
hmm
Ask the universe a question. It's gonna answer you. That's my view on prayer.
Well,
It's just
no,
what are you gonna get back? Is it the answer you want? And were you looking for how the answer was gonna be shown to you?
right. Like I like how the knowing how to ask part is brings up in my mind the fake it and fake it until you make it. If you're not feeling like you know, the end state of the desire, or, that you want, then, you know, you have to fake it. And this is if you have to use, I mean, when I started the whole gratitude practice, I would literally write out three things I was thankful for every day. And I made sure to share it with somebody. I forget who it was on the
That's a good
Discord.
idea. I need to start doing that.
But yeah, I mean, because I wasn't, nobody's just gonna drop into a state of gratitude and stay there. I mean, I'm sure some people can and have, and it's been done before, but some of us it takes a little bit more consistency, right? I mean, you want to be good at anything, you need consistency, right? But yeah, when you really set your mind to it, and then it gets easier as you go along, which is the whole point of, faking it until you make it, because eventually you don't have to fake it anymore. And that's, kind of the point to loop it back around, come full circle to the first segment. But yeah, and the wonderful thing is that it's so impersonal, like specifically with this reading in the third segment here, that is the impersonalness of the law, that it doesn't matter what you choose to make it, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. Like you're gonna get back whatever you're putting out. So make an effort to put out, good stuff, and maybe figure out what you want. I mean, that was a big question for me. Like, what do you want from the universe? Like, sometimes people have a hard time answering that, and so yeah, these are all just good things to think about, I think. But yeah, that I hope you found that empowering a little bit. Maybe give you a way out to, or a possible avenue to escape the victimhood that is often showered upon us by our lovely media, or whatever you want to call that apparatus. So yeah, hope. Oh yeah, before we wrap up, I did want to mention about the free scalar energy sessions at Mystical Wares. This is a weekly service that Derek provides, and all you have to do is go to the website and then look for I'm actually doing it right now because I want to see what this week's frequency is. You go to the website and you click on, I changed it. Oh, here we go. Scalar energy. It's all the way down at the bottom right, and you sign up by clicking through the checkout process, but you're not actually buying anything, although it takes you through the process. This week's session is digestion and gut health. So the machine that Derek has is based off of the Rife technology, Royal Raymond Rife, and his work, and there is a frequency chart, or a document on Derek's site that gives you the frequency number, and then like what it's supposed to do physically for you. So you have the option, if you wanted to book a private session that way. But I did want to mention the free because it's free, and the feedback he gets from the group determines next week's frequency. So give that a try, and then be sure to follow the show on Telegram. I guess is the most active social media account you're going to find out there right now. We do have a YouTube and a Instagram. So you can find those by going to chrononautchroniclespodcast.com. And until next time, Chrononauts, carpe diem.